Hey everyone, I'm back to do a new video. It's been a while. I've been really busy. As you can see, I'm on the road yet again. I am in Owings Mills, Maryland, doing a presentation for USCCA at one of our largest partner ranges, Gumtree in Owings Mills. And yeah, I'll be telling the students there that are taking Maryland wear and carry classes about USCCA and all of the great stuff it offers to legal, safe, and responsible gun owners. Training and education online, access to legal resources, something that I love spreading the word about. If you're interested in getting more information, all you need to do. But today I'm going to do a simple video, a basic video about loading a semi-automatic magazine for a handgun. Now I wanted to do this video for beginners, people who are just starting out shooting, because in my classes I find that this is one of the most difficult things that they come across, besides locking back the slide, is loading the magazine. If you don't have any practice at it, it can be difficult the first time out, but if I want to show you some tips that help me become pretty proficient in loading my magazine. Now there's two ways to load a magazine that I am familiar with. The first one is doing it manually. That is taking your hands and putting the rounds in onto the magazine follower by hand. So a couple things I just want to point out. So this is the magazine from my SIG 229 Legion, 6-hour 229 Legion. Pretty much most magazines are going to be the same for handguns. Like they have a box structure, box magazine structure. They have a base plate that can be removed by pressing that in. Inside the magazine is a heavy duty spring or a high tension spring, which is why when you load the rounds, the more you put in, the harder it's going to get, because you're pushing that follower down on that spring and compressing it. I also want to point out, for the purposes of this demonstration, that it's good to know the front of the magazine versus the rear of the magazine. So the easiest and quickest way to determine the rear of the magazine is that the lips, these right here that protrude out, that make that kind of like that arch right there, those lips are always going to be in the rear of the magazine. Another distinguishing feature is, and this does not apply to all magazines, okay, but Sig Sauer and Glock, I know it applies to them, but again, does not apply to all magazines, is that typically, or I shouldn't say typically, but a lot of the times the magazine has drill outs or holes so that you can determine how many rounds you've loaded. You can visibly see the round in the hole to get a round count. Now, a lot of magazines have the holes on the side of the magazine, but like I say, SIG, which is the firearm I use most of the time, and Glock, they're on the back, as are plenty other magazines. The holes are on the back. So two distinguishing features on some magazines, that is, the drill outs are on the back of the magazine, and the lips are at the rear of the magazine. So this would be the front, this would be the rear. Now, I'm just going to demonstrate real quickly the best way I found to load a magazine quickly and efficiently. So I am right-handed. My right hand is my strong hand. My off hand is my left hand. So what I do is I take the magazine in my off hand, which is my left hand, and I get a good grip on it. I pick up the round, and what I do is I make a wedge with my index finger and the second digit. And I place the round like so, which keeps the round from deviating to the right or to the left. So my two fingers, the index finger and the second digit, are creating that wedge to keep the round from rolling off to the right or to the left. Now, one thing a lot of beginners do is they try to push the round in like this. A couple of things that are wrong with that. The purpose of these lips are to keep the topmost round fixed on the magazine follower before it is ready to go into the chamber, be pushed into the chamber. So you cannot take the round and put it on the top and place it on the follower, place it in the magazine from the top. You have to place it on the front end of the follower, push down, and slide in. Now, once you get the first round in, It only gets more difficult than that, particularly for the first time loader, if you will. So now you may recognize that you've got this cylindrical object on there that you're trying to get some leverage on to place the next round on top of it, but it keeps sliding off. Well, this is where the wedge technique really helps. And so many people try to load their rounds by doing this, by using their fingers to load it in, to push it in. It's definitely going to slide off like that, okay? So what I recommend is take this thumb on your offhand and steady this round that's already placed on the magazine follower. Then what I do is I take my wedge, again my forefinger and my second digit, and I push down. Now see my elbow going up? I'm getting a lot of elbow grease there. I'm using all of these muscles here to push down. My thumb is on top of the round and I'm pushing down on the bullet portion of the round, not trying to push down past the lips because it's not going to fit. So I push down on the round itself, on the bullet portion of the round, push down, keeping that wedge from this new round sliding to the right or to the left, and slide in. And again, just rinse and repeat. Push down with your offhand thumb, get the momentum started there, and push down on the front end or the bullet portion of the round. Push down, slide in. If you have a problem with that, I've seen people, I'm not very successful at it, that will take the round and push down with the rounds using the head or the bottom, the base of the round, push down and then slide in. So now we're going to go ahead and load the rest of our magazine. And again, you do this over and over again. And you'll be proficient at it. I sucked at loading a magazine when I first got this gun. Again, it's going to get harder the more rounds you put in because you're compressing that spring on the bottom, right underneath the follower. And there you have it. That's the manual way to load your magazine. And I highly recommend that you get used to loading it this way, because if you have to, for whatever reason, load new rounds when you're out and about in public, for whatever reason, you're only going to be able to do it this way. You'll have to get the cover or concealment to do so. But that is the manual method that I use for loading a magazine. Now, let's say you're new and you're just struggling with this thing. You're at the range, whether it's an indoor and outdoor range, or maybe you have an instructor that's next to you, and you've only got an hour to get of the instructor's time, and the clock is ticking, and you're just struggling with loading them manually. Let me introduce you to the Mag Lula, which is an invaluable tool if you are just training at the range, or you've got some carpal tunnel, arthritis in your wrists or your fingers are achy or whatever. This will save time immensely. However, again, I would not get reliant on this, because when you're out in the street and you have to defend yourself, and for whatever reason, I can't imagine you have to load a new magazine, but I just feel like that's a skill that you should have as a gun owner. But in the meantime, like you're just training or practicing, you're going to shoot 200 rounds and you just can't manage to load your magazines over and over again, your wrists start to hurt. Well, then in that case, I would recommend using this, the Mag Lula. So let me demonstrate how this works. So as I said before, this is the front of the magazine and this is the rear of the magazine. We know this is the rear because of the two lips that are in the rear. Plus, in this case, we have our cutouts, which are in the rear of the magazine. Now, again, that is this particular magazine. Some appear on the side, so you can't rely on that so much, but always look for the two protruding tongues. That'll tell you where's the rear of your magazine. Plus, the magazine always wants to lean forward, mimicking your grip or your mag well. So that's another way you can tell that this is the front of the magazine. Here's the flat base plate. The lean is going towards the front of the magazine. Using the mag luller, you do need a solid surface to place it on. So just like before, you want to grab the magazine in your offhand. Now, this being the front, you want to match the front of the mag luller with the front of the magazine. You want to point in the same direction, front and front, okay? Now, the way you determine the front of the mag luller is on this back part here, there is a picture of a round of ammunition, okay? The bullet is facing to the front. So that indicates to you that this is the front because the bullet is facing to the front of the mag luller. This is the rear, this is the front. Also, the hinge allows the front portion of the mag luller to spring out. So it springs out to the front, okay? So we want to match these two up. First thing we want to do is place the mag luller on top of the magazine. We grab the mag luller and squeeze. Now, if you see this, what I'm going to call that the feed ramp, that slide right there, you want to push that down, and that pushes down the magazine follower. Then you just take your round and you place it down in the feed ramp. It's sitting on the feed ramp, then you release, and the round is placed onto the magazine follower. Lift the mag luller up, squeeze. Now that feed ramp will push that first round down and create space to put the next round. And again, just rinse and repeat. Pretty fast, right? Now I will tell you, once you get skilled at doing it manually, you can get it done even faster manually. The guy that I consider to be my top instructor, who instructs me, Kevin Jones, he challenged me to a contest where he would load his magazine manually, and I'll use the mag luller, and he did beat me by a little bit of a fraction of a second, but he did beat me. So therein you have the difference between loading it manually, wedge, push down. Don't push like this. Don't try to use these two fingers to put it in. Press down, get some strength behind it. Or using this mag luller, where you use the spring action to your advantage and push down so that this feed ramp pushes down on each subsequent round and makes space to put the next round. And when you want ready to store this thing, it has this little lock on the side here. Push it in, press down, and it stays collapsed. Now you can fit this in your range bag and a small pocket in your range bag without all of this hanging out right there, okay? All right, and there you have it.